Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We're for the weather warnings as we do have another rain warning for southern Scotland, so we're going to see some more heavy rain over the next 24 hours as we do continue to see some weather fronts coming in off the Atlantic. However, for most this week, it will be turning warmer and drier, especially through Tuesday and Wednesday for southern and eastern areas, where we could see temperatures by Wednesday afternoon reaching as high as 28, maybe even 29 or 30 degrees as we start to see some real warmth returning for the end of August. Now that sort of pattern is likely to continue into early September, as we'll see from the latest longer range charts. It doesn't look like it's going to be consistent. It is going to be quite up and down, variable. There will be days where it is warm and dry, other days where we see some showers, maybe some storms, some slightly fresher conditions. But the overall trend and the overall pattern will generally be a warm one as we do head into the start of meteorological autumn, which is definitely a plus. So it looks like summer's going to be extended at least for another week or two as we head into September. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see there is rain moving in for northern and western parts at the moment, but it isn't really going to move much further eastwards, and that's because we do have that higher pressure building in further souths and eastwards, and as I said, it's going to turn out much warmer over the next day or so. But this rain will be fairly slow moving in those areas where it does fall, and that's why we have that rain warning issued for tomorrow, as we'll see in a minute. But for the time being, we're calling this around 9 p.m. on Monday evening. We do have some heavy rain around, but for most it is generally dry. Temperatures today haven't been amazing, but they've not been particularly poor either. Generally around averaging, still see some oranges out there, so temperatures still hovering around the high teens or low 20s, even towards the evening. Now, to have a look at the weather warnings, we have this rain warning from 3 a.m. until 7 p.m. on Tuesday, and as I said, it's for southern Scotland here, and it is for some persistent rain, heavy at times over southwest Scotland on Tuesday, and it could cause some local flooding and travel disruption. Again, it's for persistent rain across this region, 25 to 40 millimeters, maybe as much as 60 millimeters. In itself, doesn't sound like anything too ridiculous, but we have seen quite a bit of rain over the past week or so. We've seen actually numerous yellow warnings for this region already, and that's most likely why we've seen another warning, because of the accumulation of rain that we have seen in this region. Now, if you go over to the UKV and have a look at the latest charts for the next 5 days, look at the precipitation and the temperature, you can see as we head through this evening that rain does move in. It could be pretty heavy at times, but you can see it doesn't really progress much further eastwards. It kind of does fizzle out as it does slowly push in. So for most on Tuesday, it is dry and it will be turning warmer. That narrow band where the rain does persist, it of course won't be as pleasant, but hopefully by Wednesday it will be much better. Now, if you move into Wednesday, you can see it is a fairly dry day, a few heavy thundery showers in the north, but mostly dry with the sunshine coming out, and the upper air temperatures are warm. As I said, temperatures could be into the high 20s. As we head into Thursday, it will be slightly fresher as we do see a weak weather front moving through, but still warm, mid-20s for many. And then into Friday, again, generally dry, a few clouds around, and again, low to mid-20s for many. So cooling down slightly on Thursday, Friday. We're still saying above average and generally warm. It's just because that air mass, the very warm air mass, gets pushed away by a very weak weather front that you can see is associated with this thicker cloud here through Wednesday evening into Thursday. So very slow transition to something slightly cooler, but it still is above average and still is very warm as we do head in to later this week, and as we start early September. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon temperatures peaking around the 22 or 23 degree mark, so nothing exceptional, but definitely warm and pleasant. Into Tuesday, slightly higher, 24 or 25, and then into Wednesday, it gets even warmer than that. By 3 p.m, temperatures could be topping out, maybe 27, 28 degrees is possible, again, Unfortunately, the 3 p.m. chart isn't loading here, but if it were, we would likely see those temperatures getting around that 28 or 29 degree mark. There we go, it has loaded 28 degrees there, and again could nudge up to 29 or 30 degrees. As we head into Thursday, still warm, low to mid-20s for many, just not quite as warm as Wednesday, and the same can be said for Friday, where again temperatures are into the low to mid-20s, but just not quite as warm as we saw on Wednesday, but still above average and still very pleasant for the final couple days of August. Now, as we head into early September, we are likely to remain fairly warm and fairly pleasant. It just might not be quite as persistent as we'd hoped a few days ago. And you can see the southerly winds coming in at the moment, and that's turning it very warm for the rest of this working week, with high pressure building in for the weekend. Now this looks great. Looks like we're going to see hot, dry conditions with south to easterly winds, but unfortunately we do see little low pressure systems trying to move through early next week, which could bring slightly fresher air, but more importantly instability. So showers and thunderstorms could become a bit more abundant. But it's not dominating, and you can see high pressure does try and return in the longer range, so we are likely to remain warm and turn drier at times. But of course, you can see that low pressure is mixing in. Still got generally above average air masses though. Look at that southeasterly winds regularly pushing in some pretty hot air. In fact, you see upper air temperatures around 8 to 10 degrees above average at times. But we've got a cool pool of air out towards the North Atlantic associated with this little low pressure system that is going to try and bring showers and thunderstorms in, unfortunately. As said though, it is still going to be warm, but just maybe more precipitation coming into next week, so for that first full week of September. Now, if you have a look at the latest GM, to be honest, it's fairly similar. Again, westerly winds getting pushed away with that southerly flow for this week, turning much warmer and drier, persists into the weekend, for again, we could see some weaker lower pressure moving in. However, doesn't really move in anywhere near as much as the GFS was showing, and actually we remain very warm and very dry towards day 10. You see the upper air temperatures still above average. The only caveat is because the high pressure is extending in from the Azores, it could allow some fresher air to come around the top of the high pressure system. As you can see here, it does go into Germany. We see some slightly fresh air goes into Germany. That could just nudge towards our shores. Doesn't really show it here, but I just want to show, just sort of say that is an option here, although we are still fairly warm and fairly dry. If you look at the latest ECMOF to finish off, again a westerly flow getting pushed away by southerly winds for this week into the weekend. Next weekend, that is, still warm and dry, but still could see some slightly lower pressure at times, and actually it finishes off almost a carbon copy to the GM with very warm, dry air still in place with some slightly fresher air just to our east. But for us, if we look at the surface temperatures, it would still be very warm. Unfortunately, the 2 meter temperatures are not out yet for this latest run, but would likely still be in the low to mid 20s for many. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you can see it is up and down, but it's more above average over the next couple of weeks. It's pretty much persistently, above average for the next couple of weeks. Some fresher runs right in the longer range, but majority of runs for the rest of August and for the first week of September are all a good few degrees above average, with some very warm runs appearing in there. Precipitation is very minimal over the next sort of 4 or 5 days. It does pick up a little bit into next week, but as I said, that's likely with the more changeable conditions, maybe a few showers coming in with some troughs or those small little low pressure systems. So nothing really to worry about, but something to keep an eye on. And then again, if we compare to the ECMWF, this is the midnight run, very similar. Slight dip towards the weekend as we see some slightly fresher conditions coming in, but still hovering around average, so still likely to be in the low 20s for many, and then well above average once again in the longer term, and staying well above average for early September. So ECMWF ensembles looking really good here. 24 hours or so later this week of slightly fresher conditions, but for most it is going to be very dry and it is going to be very warm for the next week or two. Some caveats in there as we have highlighted, but generally the outlook is looking pretty decent indeed. Maybe not quite as hot as early September last year, where it was widely, especially for England, towards 30 degrees and low 30s for some of the southeast. Might not be that hot and that persistent, but it is certainly going to be decent conditions, good conditions for the time of year. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.